The Asian League was founded in the year 2003 and resulted from a similar problem we have in Europe, where there is not enough teams in one country to form a competitive league. The league includes teams from Japan, South Korea and Russia, and also used to have teams from China. We've seen some turbulences in the last 2 decades, as we saw many teams come and go throughout the years. The import number recently dropped to 2, which are usually very skilled and highly paid. It's also a little bit harder for them to get imports, as there's a little bit of a cultural barrier for North American and European players to go to Asia. The league is very small but very fast, so that's why it's also often underestimated by players that go there, because they don't expect the players to be that good skaters. The league has a decent attendance average of 920 people per game. Our next interview is with Matt Pope from Canada. Matt is a hockey player that played all over the world, including many stations in North America, Europe, and finally in Asia. Today it's going to be very interesting to talk about the Asia League with him. Hi Matt, thanks for being here with us today.
No problem, my pleasure.
Yeah, so the first question will be, can you quickly explain your career up to the point when you reached Asia?
I played on a lot of different teams in a lot of different countries. Got to travel around a lot, played college hockey in Minnesota, and then started in the ECHL for about half of my first year, and then went up to the AHL for 5 years after that, and then traveled over to Europe, started in Denmark, went to Italy, the Austrian League, and then decided to go over to Asia. Totally nervous about going there, but asked a few people and heard some good stuff, so decided to make the jump over there.
So how did you even find a team in Asia? Did you always want to go there, or did your agent advise you? Or yeah, how did that come about?
So the agent that I was using for Europe has a couple partners that he works with, and one of them specialized in Asia. So yeah, I was looking to stay somewhere in Europe, Central Europe, maybe DEL or Swiss B League, something like that. And then he said his partner has a job in Asia that they're interested in me for. And at first I was, like I said, I was a little nervous, a little apprehensive about it, considering everything over there is there's not even letters to try to read or translate things. There's obviously just the symbols, so I thought it would be a little different, but I asked around, and my agent assured me that all of his clients that go over there really enjoy it and get used to it after a while. So it was my European agent that actually set me up over there.
Okay, so how can you compare the hockey and the lifestyle from Asia to North America or Europe?
Well, the hockey, to start with, was really fast. I always considered myself a fast skater and a fast player, and I was average at best, probably in the slower half of the players there. But it wasn't very physical at all. There was hardly any hitting, so I'm a bigger guy, and I remember when I first got there, my coach really worked with me on changing my game a little bit, because he basically said, you know, a guy of your size, you don't have to get rid of the puck as fast as you normally did, because the other players, the Asian players, are smaller and can't really check me as hard as North American or bigger European players. So changed the style of my play a little bit, and like I said, I was one of the slower guys, so instead of trying to play a high-paced game, I played more of a slow and steady, monotonous puck protection type of game. But my coach was Japanese Canadian, so he knew a lot about hockey and spoke perfect English, so he worked with me and got me obviously to have a very successful season. The lifestyle there was great. I loved it. The Japanese people are just it's one of my favorite countries. to live in. Everyone is so nice and respectful. You know, that stigma they have of the traditional, overly respectful people, that they are absolutely. And it was actually funny walking around. People would stop to take photos with me because they'd never really seen a tall blonde guy in real life before. So it was definitely interesting. There was a few times where I bought something at the grocery store to get home and realized it was the wrong thing, but the team had a translator working for the team that we could call anytime we wanted, and they would come to the bank with us or the grocery store or anything like that. Obviously with technology we had Google Translate, and it wasn't as bad as I had worried about. And overall I loved it. I loved the people, the culture there, the food was amazing, and it was just, because I played in so many different countries, it was just one of the nicer countries to live in, with healthy people, clean cities, and really, really nice culture.
Okay, so is it still similar, or is it 100% different like many of us think?
Yeah, for a little bit, big time. There's only a very limited number of imports there. So when I was there, there was 3, and now the league has 2 import players per team. So if you think about it, there's just yourself and then one other player that is from North America or Europe. And then if they are European, they may not even speak English. So you could be the only English-speaking person on the team. I was lucky on my team, probably half of the players spoke English very well. So it was nice because I'm still friends with some of the Japanese players to this day, years later. They were just great guys, and because they could speak English perfectly, it was just easy to get to know them. It was really weird because I went the whole season without even speaking to a few of my teammates because they didn't know English at all. And I only was able to learn maybe a dozen Japanese words in total, but it was just weird having teammates. Usually you get so close with your teammates over a season, and by the end of the year, there was at least 3 or 4 guys that I maybe spoke a sentence to throughout the entire year. And also, I was lucky to have a trainer that spoke perfect English, and my coach was Japanese Canadian, so he spoke English perfectly as well. But I do know some players that played for other teams in the Asian League where their coach didn't speak English. And I heard of a funny story where one of my friends had a bad game and he was getting yelled at by his coach in Korean, and then the translator was sitting next to him, so the coach was just screaming at him, and then the translator was just quietly speaking, so it was some really angry words spoken in just normal, quiet tone. So my friend said that was interesting to go through a year where you can't even communicate with your coach, but I think I had it pretty lucky playing in Tohoku for the Free Blades.
And how is the team and the league organized? Is it pretty professional, or is it more like semi-professional?
Yeah, it would be probably middle of the pack from where I've played. I played in Denmark, where almost everyone came to the games straight from their day jobs. And in Italy, in the Italian league, most people had jobs as well, so it wasn't, they weren't considered fully professional leagues. But in Japan, it was probably 50-50. A few guys had jobs, and then most of the guys, I would say, it was their full-time profession was to be a pro hockey player. So in that sense, I would say it was more on the pro side, but the way it was run was one of the most professional places that I've played on. The league was run very well, and our team was so professional. We got treated really well, whatever we needed. They set us up with a car, an apartment when we got there. As I said, they had a translator for us. We had meals at the rink every day, so after practice they would provide lunch. It was definitely a first-class organization. I can't speak for every team in the league, but I know that from a few friends playing in the teams in Korea, they got treated really well as well, very professional over there.
So now, do you have any specific advice for a player looking to go to Asia?
Good question. I would say try everything, because when I went there, I was a very mild eater, and when I left, there wasn't much that I wouldn't eat. I really got to love sushi while I was over there, and I would say try to embrace the culture as well. It is a quieter culture, and it actually helped me save a lot of money because I wasn't going out partying as much, especially with the few amount of imports, but also the culture is just not so much of a party type culture. And I would say travel around as much as you can. We got maybe 3 different breaks throughout the season where we had 3 or 4 days off, and I just traveled as much as I could. Short little flights, or in Japan they've got the bullet trains where you can get across the country in just a couple hours, and it's relatively cheap as well. So I would say travel and expand your culture. One piece of advice that I wish I had would probably have been to triple check what you buy at the grocery store before you check out, because you never know what it actually is.
Okay, so would you say that it's more a place to go if you have a girlfriend or family, whereas as a single it might be a little bit boring as there's not so much partying and so on?
Right, yeah, I was single when I was there, so it was a little weird, not really meeting anyone, and yeah, it was not your typical year for a single pro hockey player from my experience playing in different countries, but there were 2 other imports when I was there. One of them had a fiance who came with him, and they spent a lot of time together, so it was great in that sense. And then the other one had a wife and 2 children who were school age, and they were going to school there, and I know that they loved it. They were there, I think, for 3 years, and the kids were learning Japanese. They were great kids, but I think the school system there does such a great job. One thing I'll never forget is that the schools make the children clean the school like a janitor does. So I guess it teaches the kids about respecting things and not making a mess, because they then have to clean it. So and the teachers at schools have a lot more disciplinary action than in Western society. So I think the kids were learning a lot about respect and being kind, and rather than I know in the American countries it's just kind of a free-for-all when they're at school, but I would say it's definitely more of a league. Where I was anyway, that city, it was more geared towards someone that either has a wife or a family, rather than a single player looking to go live it up for the year.
Okay, that was it, Matt. Thank you again for being here with us today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks a lot.